speaking of the government, it's not much better here in Australia. We've just found out this weekend that Australia cannot afford a planned $7 billion military-grade satellite system, which would ensure we have state-of-the-art defence, but we can afford to pay off $16 billion worth of student debt so that Anthony Albanese can garner votes from 20-year-olds at the next election. It was just 18 months ago that the Australian government announced with great fanfare this new satellite system. They had gone out to tender, contracted Lockheed Martin to produce 3 to 5 satellites that would protect the Australian military from cyber attacks. This was going to be incredibly important for our military defence. In fact, Air Vice Marshal David Schewel said at the time, currently across defence there is up to 89 capabilities which depend on satellite communications. Once delivered, the new system will increase the resilience, agility and flexibility of Defence's military satellite capability. That was just 18 months ago, but now we find out the government didn't allocate any money for this $7 billion project in the defence budget. So a year and a half after announcing this to the nation, they've now said, actually, we're not going to do it. Bear in mind, though, we spent, what was it, $400 million on the Voice referendum, $600 million on a rugby team for Papua New Guinea. We spend, what is it, about $30-40 billion every year on Indigenous affairs, but we can't find $7 billion. Just announced, as I said, $16 billion, wiped off student debt, but can't find $7 billion to make sure our nation is as secure as possible in the likelihood of conflict with China in the next few years. This is just one of a litany of defence announcements that then turn out to be nothing burgers just months, years later. We found out only a couple of days ago that our 6 Collins-class submarines, 5 of them are currently under maintenance. One of them has been having maintenance for 2 years. We've got 1 submarine that can actually be utilised.
Honestly, China, just come and take us. Honestly, we're sitting ducks. They're reading these headlines too and just going, good grief, we won't have to fire a shot.
The only good thing here is when our young people are speaking Mandarin, they won't have a HEX debt. So that's a plus.
But I mean, you point out all the other great expenditure in the budget. I mean, we spend somewhere in the order of $100 billion on the NDIS and other welfare combined, right? Well, you won't have a country left to spend the $100 billion on welfare and the NDIS if we can't spend $7 billion to make sure that our defence infrastructure is not targeted by cyber attacks. And of course, that will be the new way in which wars are fought. I mean, this is a system that would have communicated with RAAF planes and this sort of thing, right? The number one thing, if you want to bring down a country right now, is to attack their internet systems or their banking system, which of course is all digital now because cash is on the way out, etc. You can bring a country to its knees like that.
Exactly.
That is how wars are going to be fought. So you would think this is the number one thing that you would find money to spend on. No, we couldn't possibly do that. When we were asked to send a ship up to the Red Sea to defend one of the biggest trade routes in the world, oh, sorry, we don't have one lying around that you could possibly use for that. We're talking about using birds to attack drones, as in enemy drones, because we don't have any enemy drones of our own. We can't get drones for another 5 years or something because we're so far behind. Like, it's not just the Labor government, it should be noted.
Yes,
the coalition before them were just as bad. We've been so lax in creating, defence infrastructure and personnel as well, that we would need if things ever go down the toilet. And we are closer to global conflict, or certainly conflict in the Asian region with a rising China, than we have been in decades, and we are totally up the creek without a paddle.
But why is it always defence announcements? So 18 months ago, they get all the plaudits. They don't tell anyone. They've only allotted $150 million, that's not even going to get the project off the ground. So thanks for nothing. What were you thinking? They don't care. It sounds awesome. Australia thinks we're legendary. You're going to be so much safer against cybersecurity attacks, etc. and so on. Trust us. We're in now. We're Labor and we're awesome. So they have the photo ops. Everyone applauds, being like, I can't believe we didn't have this sooner. Who is that Liberal government that did absolutely nothing? And here we are, just a year and a half later, and they're like, oh, by the way, it's not happening. Yeah. So we actually only gave it 150 million, which was never going to achieve anything, not even get the stupid thing off the ground. We were essentially lying to you, weren't we? Because we don't have the money and we can't deliver on this project. Also, the other option is just go into more debt. I mean, we're already $880 billion in debt. And I'm sure, given we're all well aware of the situation that Caleb just described, that's how you bring any country to its knees. You knock out their internet capabilities, their banking systems. Oh, there's a lot of ways to do it. Game over, Red Rover. I'm sure Australians would be more than happy if you just whacked another $7 billion onto our $880 billion tab, which we're paying millions of dollars every single day just in interest. But knowing that we would then have this capability, while Five Eyes is telling us we are attacked almost on the daily by Russian intelligence, by Chinese intelligence. Cyber attacks are a dime a dozen. We don't talk about it enough. Obviously, for intelligence-y reasons, they keep us in the dark, and probably so we can all sleep at night. That's nice. But this is something that is absolutely essential, and this is something that you want to say you don't have money for? You're in charge of the budget. Reallocate funds or print the money, because you're so good at that.